Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Greg, one of the technical trainers at Decisions. We will begin in just a minute. Thanks for joining us today. If you do have any questions, then please go ahead and put them in the chat so we can take a look at them and do our best to answer them. Hey, everybody, we're going to take one more minute here and begin. We do have a question from Andy, so I'm going to look at that, think about that for a minute before I start to talk. I'll go ahead and let you all know the question from Andy, and then he can expand on it if you'd like, Andy, in a minute. But the question is, what's the best / simplest way to create a form to CRUD data, that's CRUD data, in an Oracle table via a database table definition? So I'm going to do a little bit of investigation right now with that, Andy, and then I am going to attempt to answer that question the best that I can. Okay, let's go ahead and begin now. So, Andy, I'm going to unmute you, and I'd like you to tell me a little bit about what you mean exactly with the Oracle table and how you're using it. So let me unmute you, and you can talk a little bit about that. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay. Yeah, hi. Well, I mean, the table is just going to be a bunch of inputs to a file, but I just want a way that, you know, a simplest possible way to be able to add rows, delete rows, and then change any of the fields within a particular row. To skip forward, skip back, pretty standard thing, just to be able to edit the whole table.
Okay, so you are looking for the simplest way to maybe have a data repeater and edit the fields in the data repeater?
Well, I could answer that if I knew what a data repeater is.
There you go. Let me tell you a little bit about that. Hold on just a second.
What have you done just now, by the way?
What have I done?
Yeah, you've got this form here.
Yeah, I just created a form. So let me take you a step back. So I have a designer project here called Lunch and Learn, and I went ahead and created a form.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing now. I just titled it Andy form, and I was going to experiment with the data repeater here, adding that. Let's see. I'm going to drag that over. Let's make it really big.
Okay. And so the source, the data source here would be my database table definition.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So that's how you would set that up. You would create or pick your source there after, adding that, give it a name. And
okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. And this allows you to pretty feasibly edit the data. It's kind of, the name describes itself well. It just repeats the data over and over.
Well, by that you mean it will show me, row 700 if I want to, and then it will, will I have something that looks like a report except that I can edit the cells?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, I would suggest that. And is when you put your data source in, then you'll be able to do a lot more and see your data. And I think that's a good thing for you to experiment with.
Hey, Greg, can I one more thing that is a really cool tool that's worth exploring, Andy, is the data grid parentheses advanced. Greg, drag one onto your form for me. So type in data grid. Yeah, and then the advanced one on the bottom right. Yep, and then you can expand that out a little bit. And then just for now, just make the type accounts or something under all or search. You would search for it, whatever yours is, but just accounts, Greg, like user accounts. Yep, perfect. And you can just name the input data accounts, sure, whatever. Perfect. Under the source right there on the bottom right. You can add fields, so add a field right there.
Okay.
And then one last thing that you'll need to have as well is, so Greg, click on one of those fields for the field property like you have, and then scroll down to grid on the right-hand properties. Apologies, scroll up. You want can edit, click that can edit button. And then on your data fields, the gray area, click that for the properties of the data grid itself. Go to grid view. And then apologies, maybe actions. We're looking for the edit button again. I'm kind of bouncing here. Try settings. That'll be the last one. If not, we can mess with it.
How about search?
Yes, you can search. Let's try that. So up top in the properties panel, search for edit there, Greg. I don't know if that'll. Nope. Okay, so then maybe it's on a different because I sometimes I get inline editing on reports, and so maybe it's active by default. Go ahead and save that, Greg. And then close out of this. And then you can in that data grid, you might have to fetch it in a flow, but go ahead and hit the preview. Oh, it's not going to let you. Yeah, in a flow, so you can fetch it, and that data grid will allow you to review the input grid mode on form component. So grid mode right there. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, VT. You're a beast, man. Inline edit. Thank you so much.
There we go.
And then what that'll allow you to do is take in that account or your Oracle information, and then you should be able to edit it. You'll have to fetch before it in the flow, and then after it, if you want to save that information, you'll have to use like a save entities or some variety of any variety of tools in which you save back. But that's going to be a great way to edit data on a form that comes in.
And I'm seeing there's such a thing as an add button and a remove button.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you can,
Okay.
so what you'll have to do is for those add and remove buttons, you'll have to add a sub dialog. Go ahead and Greg, add a sub dialog.
What?
Or no, sorry, maybe, yeah, try a sub dialog.
I thought you could just put a couple of buttons down on the bottom row.
Oh yeah, you probably can. Go click on Data Grid Advanced for me again, Greg. No. And now click the add button.
Yeah, there's just nothing that's populating yet.
Do a button then. I was wrong. I'm kind of bouncing around here. There we go. Button, and then click that Data Grid Advanced again.
No, click all the way up, top left, search on the form, guys.
Yeah.
You can just do add button and remove button, and there's two types, one for the advanced data grid and one for the data repeater, right? Data grid add, and then there's also data repeater add, and there's also conversely the remove for both those controls. And then now if you pick the data grid add button, Greg, then you can go back to your advanced data grid control that you have on the form, and then it will appear with an option because it automatically detects that you've selected that one.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you.
Okay. And there's no remove button, so that list is going to be empty. All right.
Yeah. So lots of good options right now.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. All right. I'm gonna look at your links as well. All right. I just got assigned this task, and it's like, right before noon. I said, I know what I'll do. I'll join the lunch and learn.
Come on in and learn. Yeah.
That's something like that. All right. Do you guys eat lunch? I don't know.
Well, at some point
during your session, right?
No, I definitely don't during the session.
All right. All right. Okay. I'm happy with all these starting points. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Jared.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks to all you guys.
All right. I see a couple more questions here in the Q&A. One is from Carter. Let me read this. I have integrated a query into one of my projects. The query does not return any data, but does not fail when I run it using the integration. However, when hard coding the parameter I pass into the query, I get results as expected. What could be causing this? Let's see. Carter, I'm going to unmute you in case you want to say anything else. You don't have to, but I will allow you to talk if you need to. Let's see. So this deals with a very specific query that I see here. You're not getting any results when hard-coded is the parameter. So can you tell me a little bit more, Carter, about what you're using? Are you using like a raw SQL step to do this? What are you actually using in the flow when you say hard coding the parameter?
Hello?
Yeah, hey, I can hear you a little bit. You might want to turn up your volume if you can.
Oh, hey, sorry.
There you
Yes.
go.
So I'm not Carter. Carter sent me the link. My name's Kevin. I don't know if Carter is also here right now. If I hijacked him, I'm sorry. I don't know what question he's asking there. I just typed another question. Yeah, does it have two people or am I like
Yeah,
taking
it's
his
funny
spot here?
because there are two Carter Haneys here.
Sorry, yeah, I guess
So-
it's the other one first. My bad.
No problem.
Sorry,
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that he's having a hard time. I don't know. There's a lot of questions in my mind right now when he asks this. I would want to know more about what he's actually trying to do in the flow, because if he's not getting results when he quote hard codes a query into an input into a parameter. It just really depends on how he's doing that. So
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
yeah,
I'll be quiet.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Didn't realize you couldn't hear me.
no problem.
So I'm using a database integration and integrating a query. So whenever I use that same, create data types integration, database integration,
Database structure, is that what you
1,
mean?
2, 3,
Or-
fourth option on the left side,
Okay, gotcha.
and then add query.
And you're adding a query this way, okay.
So
And
we've got an
then-
existing connection to an external database, but
Okay,
and then setting up the query here on the next screen.
So you're just putting it right in here.
Right. When I use a parameter, that at parameter and then map the parameter, I get 0 results. But if I take out the parameter and hard code something in, I do get results.
So you're adding the parameter, not getting results. But here, so when you actually, for example, like paste it in here, paste the query in, you're running the query and you get results
Yes.
when you check it. Trying to think of why that may be happening. And do you have anything else set up? I mean, what's the table that you're trying to query?
It's
Just
an
an
external database table.
Database table. And how have you set up that integration?
That I don't have admin privileges, and someone else set up the integration. I do have other queries that are working and returning data though, using the same server connection.
Yeah, and it's just puzzling because when you're checking the query, you are getting results, but when you add the parameter in the input, you're not.
Correct.
That's interesting. So obviously the integration is set up, it's just not working for the input parameters.
Correct. And I do have another query that uses that same database connection and has a parameter and returns results.
Are you getting, okay, so do you have a flow that's associated with this at all?
Yes, so I
Okay.
have the same action inside the flow. So if I create the query and then pass a parameter into the tool that gets created after this integration process finishes, the tool passes to the results output, and then just has an empty set as the results.
Okay. Let me try something here. I'm getting some good comments from several people in the chat. Want to test something. So I'm gonna add this. Well, I'm not sure if this will work here. Oh no. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I have gotten here in the chat that are good ideas to consider. So VT has said that there is a default value option that if you define it will return results.
Yeah, I have my default value.
You got that?
Set to the same thing that I hard code as.
So VT is saying that you'll get results in the flow. That happens because the parameter value is empty. There is a default value option that if you define it will return results.
Can you go ahead and re-add my query again?
Yeah.
And test it.
Start that again.
Yeah, test it in its entirety because I didn't think we got a good test on it.
Okay.
Next. Paste it and then just give it a name up top. And then run the query. Run. All right, so we got select asterisk from entity underscore count. I think it's because I have something. I think I need the single quotes. Can you add the single quotes to the email address?
Yeah. Including the @ symbol, right?
Yep, everything. Now you run the query, which probably should still fail because there's no results. Maybe that's why. So go ahead, remove the single quotes. Now, Carter, when you scroll down here, so scroll down on this, Greg. Do we have this return data option? Are you able to create a type from it?
Yes, I'm able to create a type.
Have you created a type from it or no?
The create type creates it on the fly based on the results, correct?
I believe so. If you can expand that.
So no,
So you can
because
say, well, yeah,
it
it
hasn't
depends
returned data.
because it hasn't returned data, but you get data back when you test this.
I
So
do
go ahead and
not get data back when I test.
even on the run query part on the bottom.
Correct. If
Okay, so
I
yours looks like
change
ours,
at
right?
email address,
Mhm.
no, I don't get an error. I just get rows return 0.
Oh, rows return 0.
Yeah, like the
So,
query completes successfully, it just doesn't return anything.
but when you hard code the values, you get data, right?
Correct.
Which makes sense. Because then, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense because then you're hard coding it. Because I don't think it knows. So go ahead and let's see, any underscore account where email address, I think that's the correct property. Go ahead and save this now, Greg. And then put it in a flow and let's run it. Let's see. It's saying the query is wrong. Let's see, hold on. Do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can
Okay.
do this quick. Boom, boom. Screen's loading. Okay, cool. That's what I want to do. Integration, query, database integration, query integration. Don't go slow on me now, please. We'll do test queue over here, and I'll do select asterisk from entity underscore account. Let me just run this. Do I get data? Row count 7. Okay, that's good. So now I got to say where email address equals, and I just do at email. And then run the query. I say create data rows, and it's going to yell because I don't have that. What's the default value? Oh, what was, I think I know, because then if I click OK, it's just going to error out. Oh, it grabs it? That is a valid query. Hold on, let me ask. There's a great document of this. And MSQL, Postgres is at or $, MySQL. Let's go through this. So we just have to add a default value. Okay. So let me go to do that. Create data types integrations. We go to database, add query, select. I'm going to do test queue. Return data, select asterisk from entity underscore account, which this one does work because we get this. But then we do the where clause, and I say equal at email, not at email. Then it should grab it. So I'm going to edit this, give it a default value to say, what is it, admin at decisions.com so that it runs. And then a default, then I run this query. doesn't like it. So I guess do we add the single quotes? It still doesn't like the query being executed. Data rows, run query. Which makes sense. I don't think it would return any data because I didn't pass any values inside of it. This is an MS SQL database. There's something simple I'm missing here. Database like SH. Let's just try this one. Let's see if that one works. Sure, run query. Okay, what's the difference between this one and mine? I think I know what it is. I think my property is wrong on my. Okay, I know what it is. Select from entity underscore account where I think it's email underscore address is at email. I think that's what it is. I'm going to confirm. Open up another tab. Go to localhost. And then I'm going to go to the query editor. I'm going to select asterisk from z underscore account. And I think it's email underscore address. Yep, it was
Yeah.
email. That's why I was fat fingering that email underscore address as email, but then when I run this query, it should say 0 results. Perfect. So then I can click OK. And then I think now we're at the situation where you're at, right? You can just, it runs successfully here, but when you add it to a flow, it doesn't, right?
If we go back and configure that
Mm-hmm.
and set a default parameter to like system.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Decisions, I can't spell. Run
And then run your
query.
query. Okay, so I still get 0 here.
Have you verified like the data is like that's the actual piece of like we know that
Yes.
that data exists. We've confirmed that.
Yeah, so like instead of putting at email, I put decisions, admin at decisions.com and it got results.
Oh, doing this query.
Yeah, something similar to that.
Yeah, something similar to that. At the default value. Yeah, there's something and you said we've confirmed that like it does because usually typically the only two ways that could happen if the query works and you put in a default value. Or if it doesn't work, if you put in a default value, then that means that there's something not the same with that value in the database and in here, right?
Carter, is your parameter in single quotes?
Yes. Because it's if we change this to a like.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I was gonna say, yeah, you're doing a like clause. I'm looking at your query right now. And I'm gonna edit this default value to be like rad or something. And you did like what percent something?
Yeah, just a wildcards. So like select everything from entity account where email address like.
Carter, can you test it by removing the single quotes?
Yeah.
It doesn't like that.
You don't have your where clause.
Oh, whoops. I was like, what happened to my like? It's just not like oh, I don't need the equal.
Yeah, your first like with a where.
Oh my gosh.
You have from entity like email
like
just like talking like Valley Girl.
Like exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like it was like totally like this query, like okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
exactly.
Okay.
But if you change like delete at email, type in AD.
For here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd have well oh so you're wait a minute. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to wild card this.
Yes.
Okay, which I think it's probably what it's doing is it's trying to find like if I say AD that that's gonna run, it's gonna find one. I think it's something with the wild card and how it's reading the wild card. So if I have at email, well, no, I think it should be right. And then I add AD. What version are you running in?
Let me check.
Because I'm wondering if this could be a bug in that version. Because what's happening here is I
8.12.
think 8.12. I'm on 8.19. I'm still experiencing that, but I think it's something with. Let's see, what is? Because yeah, it's trying to populate that. We're at. I think yeah, either there's something weird with the query that we have to do. We'll take this offline because this is something we're seeing in our environment. So I'm going to take this query, take it offline, put your email in the chat, and we'll investigate that. Because go ahead. What I think is happening is I think it's just the query that we're writing is just not right, and I just don't know what to do to fix it. I'll have to mess with it offline.
I
Yeah,
will
absolutely
add,
appreciate it.
Jeremy has been saying in the chat that the parameter is adding extra quotes. So the wildcard should be in the step input. He's saying that if you remove the single quotes, basically it does that for you. So I don't know if you actually were able to try that.
Just remove single quotes. I thought I did that, and I had no. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, it doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Like it fails. So that's why I think.
So you're saying what I
this-
should do instead is do like at email, and then whenever I pass in, so if we take out the percentage signs around the parameter, and then
You can talk, Jeremy, if you want.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Hey, yeah, what he's
There
going
we go.
for, you need to, in your query here, it should be like at email.
and then
the
inside the
step in-
parameter pass in the
the
percentage
step
signs.
input parameter is where you're saying what is searching, because the parameter will always add single quotes every
Gotcha.
time.
So then if we
So
change
then
our
that,
parameter,
so the way Jared had that set up, it was doing percent quote value quote percent, which is not a valid SQL statement.
Yep.
The parameter always adds single quotes, no matter what.
gotcha. Okay.
That's why it's failing. So in your step input, you would put in your wildcard search of
Yep.
percent value percent, and then it would work.
Gotcha.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That is what I needed. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yep.
What
no
a
problem.
great team.
I've done so many SQL queries, and I always half the time forget to not put quotes in the query when I'm doing parameters. Then I have to remind myself, oh yeah, it does that for me.
All right, we do have one more question from Encore. And let's see. I'm gonna share my screen in just a second. Encore is asking, let's say a scheduled job, which is set to run every 30 minutes. What happens if it's going to take more than an hour for the scheduled job? So he's asking, does it run after 1 hour as it gets in the queue, or will it run in 30 minutes?
Yeah, so we have one scenario like we have to fetch the data and the job's going to run every 30 minutes. So our concern is what happen if during the fetch and processing of data, it will take more than 30 minutes, let's say 1 hour.
Sure.
So next 30 minutes when the job is scheduled to run, will that goes in the queue and it will run after one of the first job is completed, or it will run instead and run at every 30 minutes, and the
Right.
both jobs are running parallel.
That's a really good question. So does it go in the queue to begin after the first job runs, or does it go ahead and run simultaneously as the job before it? That's what you're asking, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a really good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I obviously am looking in our documentation. There's a document here titled Understanding Scheduled Jobs. And I'm looking at all the different settings and the configuration for it, specifically the job queue. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat just in case you or anybody else would like to read more. In just a second.
I just dropped my email. Can you, discuss internally and send me a confirmation like which scenario it will run?
Yeah, I will do that. Let me see you put the email in the chat.
Yes,
Okay.
I think I drop in Q&A, sorry.
Yeah, let me do that. I'll ask a couple of people here and I'll get back to you today with an answer. It's got to be one or the other, right? It either waits
Yes,
in the
it should.
queue or
Yes.
it starts.
Right.
So I'll find out.
Okay, sir. That's all from my side.
Okay. Thanks for joining. Yeah, VT, I will add that's my instinct that it would be put in a queue with a notation or a timestamp for run next, but I want to find out for sure. I don't know much about the queue. Tracy, I see your hand is raised. Would you you're enabled to speak if you'd like to.
Hi, can you hear me
Hello.
okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm having an issue with some entities that we uploaded to the repository, but the parent folder wasn't in the project. When I imported them, they went somewhere, but I don't know where to move them to the folder they're supposed to be in.
Okay.
Like I
Say
can
that
search
again. In
them.
your repository, the parent folder, they say that again?
So we checked it. I added it to the project. I checked it into
Mhm.
the repository.
Mhm.
Then we rolled the server back and we were supposed to check them back out.
Right.
When I checked them out, the parent folder, like the parent of the parent folder wasn't part of the project. So I guess it didn't know where to put them. When I search for the entities, I can see them, but there's no, I don't know what folder they're in. They don't seem to be in a path at all.
Interesting. So the rollback. Jared, you've been doing a lot with the repo lately. Do you have any ideas where that could have gone after the rollback?
I do not, but can you just show how to open managing containing folder, Greg? Because just like any entity in the system, Tracy, if you can search for it in the search bar, which I think you said you could.
Yes.
So if we could search for it, there's actually a right-clickable action that says open containing folder. And what that does is it will open the folder where those new entities reside.
Let me just double check. I tried that and I don't see that under the options.
Manage.
Open containing folder.
Yeah, manage does not have that. It has see entity details, but it doesn't have open containing folder.
Do you have access to the query editor?
Yes.
And can you get the ID of that thing?
Yes.
Perfect. So what we can do is go ahead and open the query editor, Greg.
Mhm.
Designer project folder. You have to be in a designer folder for it to appear. Perfect. And just grab Greg, just grab a designer element ID. So like you probably have to find a flow that you've created, grab the ID of it, so it's in your clipboard. And then we can, so Tracy, the suggestion I'm going to give right now is we can craft a query to be able to get this information. Because the property that houses where a thing lives in the system is the entity folder ID. And if we can find a value in the entity folder ID, then we can go and get it. You have to click out of this, Greg, and find a flow.
Okay.
So like go to, yeah, any one of those flows, right click any one of those flows, get the ID. And then copy that text. Then let's go back into the query editor. And so then what you can do is you'll run this command. It's select. You can do select entity underscore folder underscore ID. From element underscore registration. And then space where component underscore registration underscore ID equals and the ID of the thing that we copied. And so what this query will do is it will show you the entity folder ID. If it has one, you have to do single quotes.
Okay.
And then go ahead and run that. I think that's right. So and so what you can do now, Tracy, is now you can actually download the CSV and you can actually type in, or not type in, but copy that ID in the search bar in decisions. And that should show you if what folder that resides in now, if that has a value in it.
And if it doesn't, if I'm not getting a row back, oh wait, hold on. Sorry, I'm in the wrong server.
No worries.
Okay, so I have a folder ID.
Perfect. So then if you do have a folder, an entity underscore folder ID, then if you download the CSV, you can copy it. I don't think you can copy from this menu that you see here. And then so go ahead and do that, Greg, so we can demonstrate that functionality.
Oops.
And then, yeah, just copy that ID without the quotes. And then go into the search. And then paste that ID in the search bar, Greg. And then press enter. Boom, it shows you the designer folder right there. And then if you left click that, you can go into the folder that way.
Okay, so I got a folder ID and I pasted it in the search, but I'm getting no result found.
No result found. So it's stored in some place. Can you do a query using that ID? Can you query the entity underscore folder table to see if that folder was marked as deleted?
Yep, hold on.
Because that would be the next thing to do. Since we have that ID of where it resides, it probably means it's deleted and doesn't exist. Or it still exists, it's just soft deleted, so it can't be searched for.
So no, there's no row for that at all.
There's no row for that?
No.
So you have the ID, the folder ID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you're gonna query the entity underscore folder table.
Yep. Select star from entity folder where folder ID is equal to the folder value, the folder string. And
Okay,
I got
it's not
nothing.
there. Interesting. Hold on, let me ask somebody. I thought. All right. Thanks. So the next thing we'd have to do is if you create another designer folder. So this is going to be like something we'll have to do to like make it visible. Is you'll have to allocate another designer project folder for those new designer elements temporarily, and then run a query that will update all of the entity folder IDs to the new designer project folder that you'll create that is of the criteria of the old designer project folder ID. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think if we do that, then it should appear. I would give that a shot.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Awesome. And if you're still struggling, definitely email support@decisions.com because I think then they might have to do some other things to find it that you'd have to be with them to get those back.
Okay, great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, everybody. I believe that is all for the day. Thanks again for joining Lunch and Learn, and hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend, and we'll see you next week.